And she's Becky Hammon, she's Ramona Shelburne, she's Chiney Ogwumike, and I'm Malika Andrews. I feel like we shouldn't waste any time. We need to get to the performance of the night.
Yeah.
Because so Darvin Ham comes into the post-game media scrum, and he says, "Oh man, how was Wilt tonight? Wilt was so good. Wilt Davis was great." I was like, "Who is Wilt Anthony Davis?" Let's take you to crypto.com arena and show you why. Because AD was balling out of control last night against the Memphis Grizzlies. You can see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He was in the building. A lot of stars there for Pau Gasol's jersey ceremony. But we're going to take you to the beginning of this one here. Anthony Davis putting in work. He caught an elbow, though, in the nose, Becky. He left the game for a little bit, got a Band-Aid, 2 big gashes on his nose, but he was all right. He would come back in. You can see he was a little shaken up there, though, Chiney.
Yeah, he was, but it was glad to make a triumphant return, and triumphant is an understatement here.
Yeah, absolutely. So then, once again, the Lakers, they get out in transition here, looking for AD, able to get it to go. What do you see on that one, Becky?
Oh, I mean, just toughness. I've been there. I've had the things up the nose. It's uncomfortable. Kudos to him, because nobody thought he was coming back, but he came back and delivered.
His nickname, fair or not, had been street clothes, and last night he was tough.
You know what? You know how it reminded me of? Remember when Steve Nash had that bloody nose and he played all through it?
Yeah.
Anthony Davis needs some moments like this. This is like, don't call him street clothes anymore. He is taking this team on his back
Moments like
without
that.
LeBron James and D'Angelo Russell.
And
Coast to coast, doing it all.
The look on his face tells you everything. Dennis Schroeder gets this one up, and then Anthony Davis on cleanup patrol there. The Lakers, they get the win. Take a listen to Anthony Davis after the game.
You ended up with 30. You also had a season-high rebounds with 22. How's the nose?
You see, it's still bleeding, but we gotta win basketball games. Do whatever I can to come out and compete every night and help this team get victories. Every game we play from here on out, 15 games left, 16, whatever the number is a must-win for us, and nothing changed tonight.
And just your thoughts on Davis on both ends of the court. And
Wilt?
Anthony had, yeah, Davis.
Wilt.
Oh, Will, gotcha.
Yeah, Wilt Davis.
Wilt Davis. So with the win, the Lakers, they've moved up to 9th in the West. It's the highest they've been all season long. And since that 2-10 start, the Lakers, they actually have the 4th best record in the Western Conference. With AD looking the way that he was last night, Chiney, what's the ceiling that you're putting on this Lakers team?
The ceiling is the 5th spot to me, which means clear yourself of the play-in and get yourselves in the playoffs. And I say that because the West is mumbo-jumbo, right? If you have 32 losses, you could be the Lakers at 9, or you could be at the 5th spot. And so you get 2 more wins, you reintroduce LeBron James, you could really have a shot at the playoffs. But what I loved about Anthony Davis, a lot of people are going to talk about that 30 and 22, the offense.
Right.
To me, it's his impact defensively. What did the Lakers do in the second half? They held the Grizzlies to 46 second-half points. That's because of his tenacity. That's his will. We saw him snatching rebounds, 22 I mentioned, and then going coast to coast and sharing with his teammates. This is the Anthony Davis that, Lakers fans have been waiting for, and I think the motto that he has to remember is sometimes you have to go through it to get to it. He has to go through a couple of awkward games as someone that has dealt with injuries and nicks and knacks. I know this myself, to get to the other side. Coach Becky, you see this in the W all the time. You have to go through a rigorous schedule to get to the benefits of it.
Yes, and not only that, it's a good time to start playing your best basketball.
Right.
But if you don't want the name street clothes and you want street cred, get out and play in those moments, in big games, when it matters most, when your team needs you most, city needs you most. But you should be doing this the whole year.
Right.
Like, this is the Lakers team that everybody wants to see. And go back to when they won. I believe they were the best defensive team in the league.
They were.
And that is what is going to win championships at the end of the day. I know everybody loves offense, but let Coach Hammon come out for 1 minute and let's start playing some freaking defense out here, league association.
You know what also? You know who he did this against? Jaren Jackson Jr. Okay, Dylan Brooks was back in that game. Like, those are 2 very strong defensive players. So for him to have a game like that against those guys is saying something else. I also think, though, like this Laker team, they're trying to get out of the play-in tournament.
Yes.
You're right, 5 is probably the ceiling there. Dennis Schroeder told me the other day when they had 30 games left, they said, we need to win 20 of these. 20 out of 30 gets you out of the play-in tournament. And they actually could get all the way up to 6, maybe even 5 if they really went on a run.
Yep.
And I think they would be a team that no one would want to see in the first round. But if they don't get LeBron James back, and they need a good version of LeBron James, not LeBron James who wills himself back in and is still kind of hobbled with that foot injury, I don't see how they do much in the playoffs beyond maybe a first-round win. But to win something of note, and it's really, I'm never going to doubt LeBron James. Okay?
Right.
But if he can come back and look like what he did before this injury, they only had one game together. The three, D'Angelo Russell, LeBron, and Anthony Davis. This is the best team they have had since the bubble team. This is the best team the Lakers have had since 2020 when they won the whole championship. And one thing that was important about it, and you know this, Coach, too, everybody had 4 months off. Everybody was healthy going into the bubble.
I don't know how much fun the Grizzlies are having right now, though, because with the loss, they dropped to the 3rd spot in the West. And this is a team that continues to be without Ja Morant. And head coach Taylor Jenkins, he was asked about his star player before the game.
I said it yesterday, it's a healing process, so if everyone expects something to change overnight, we know we've got to be, due diligence and respectful in that. So we're talking about Ja being in a better place personally and also professionally, to put a timetable on, I think it's disrespectful in my opinion. We want to make sure he's in a great place for himself, but also as a responsible, teammate here.
All right, so Ramona, you were around the Grizzlies last night. What are their next steps here without Ja Morant?
Well, look, they said he'll be away from the team for at least 2 games. Well, it's been 2 games. So the question is, even though the Grizzlies have said there's no timetable on this, 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern, they have to say whether he's on the injury report still, because they have a game tomorrow against the Golden State Warriors back at home. Now, being around the Grizzlies, the expectation just all throughout that organization is this will be a much longer process than those 2 games. The NBA investigation is still ongoing. Colorado authorities are still looking into this. And the speculation internally, at least, players, coach, they're all thinking like they're going to be without him for a while. I had a conversation with Tyus Jones, who thinks of himself as a starter in this league. He's going to be the starter there for quite a while, and he's taken on more of a leadership role with the Grizzlies with Ja Morant out here. It's an unprecedented time. They've fallen into a tie for 2nd place.
Right.
That loss last night, tied for 2nd with the Sacramento Kings after having a pretty ironclad grip on that spot for a long time. But I think the expectation is they'll be without Ja for much longer, because the Grizzlies have thus far done everything to let the league have its time to investigate. It doesn't seem like that investigation is going to wrap up anytime soon.
So in that time without Ja Morant, let's take a look at the Grizzlies' upcoming schedule here, because 5 of their next 7 games are going to come against the Warriors or the Mavericks. So that's a pretty heavy dose that we're talking about of some Steph and some Luka. And speaking of Steph, the Warriors, they were in action last night against the Thunder in Oklahoma City. And the road woes continue for Golden State. You can see Steph Curry getting ready for this one here. But I want to pick this up in the 2nd quarter here, Becky, because Draymond Green, watch him here. He's calling for the ball, calling over and over. He is stamping his feet when he doesn't get it. And then it kind of looks like he gives up on the play, and then they turn the ball over here.
Yeah, for a guy that I have to say is one of the utmost professionals.
Yeah.
That's just unacceptable. And quite honestly, I have to question this team's professionalism on the road. It is your job to go out there. You cannot be exceptional at home and be a completely different team on the road. It's mind-boggling.
It really is unprecedented, the disparity that we've seen between the two. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Oh, tough bucket.
Excellent.
I love it. This all-star nod just seems like it's building and building his confidence. But again, the Warriors, finally a little bit more ball movement here. Nope, there's the foul call. What was this? What do you think of this, Malika?
That looks like it was ball to me, but
review.
You're going to review it. And let's take a listen to Steve Kerr after the game.
There was a possession late in the first where Jordan had the ball in his hand and Draymond was waving down, he was open, and Jordan passed it off to play, turns into a turnover, and Draymond didn't join the team on the other end. Just what did you kind of think of?
I felt we were a little disconnected in the first half several times, and so we talked about that at halftime. Tried to get back out there and compete. The second half, but there was definitely a disconnect in the first half, and that cost us.
So that loss, it dropped the Warriors to 7-25 on the road, which is just mind-boggling. No team with even remotely that bad of a road record has ever won the NBA championship. You can take a look there. The worst road team to win it all was the 1957-58 St. Louis Hawks. They went 9-19 away from home. And remember how big we talked about yesterday being for the Western Conference? A lot has changed in one day in the West standings. Here's a look at what they looked like entering play on Tuesday, right? And then take a look now. 10 of the top 13 teams in the West trading places. Everybody except the number 1 Nuggets, the number 4 Suns, the number 8 Clippers. Now, we talked about the Lakers. They moved from 11 to 9. The Jazz, I'm so sorry, producer Condis, they dropped from 9 to 13.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.